Hey folks, Michael here with Primal. Today's video is brought to you by, well, you. I'll be going over some of the basics of leatherworking. If you've been thinking about dabbling in the craft, then this video is for you. I'll go over what, in my humble opinion, I believe to be the bare bones of what you'll need to get started. Additionally, I'll cover a few techniques as well. And stick around to the end. We're going to do a project together that'll not only get you started, but will result in a bit of kit that you'll use every single time you sit down to practice your new craft. Before I get ahead of myself, I'd like to give a shout out to Ed Goad. I hope I didn't butcher that last name. Recently he commented on one of my videos. He pointed out that I showed a technique, but really didn't explain some of the details. I rewatched the video in question, and I couldn't agree more. So here we are. If you like this type of content, please consider subscribing. And if after you've watched this video and you learned something new or just simply enjoyed it, don't forget to leave a like. It helps the channel grow and it lets me know which types of videos you want to see. Alright, let's get started here. Working with leather does in fact require the purchase of a few tools. Not too many, but you will need a few. Thankfully, for not too high of an investment, you can get enough to start you on your way. In no particular order, the first on my list that I suggest you'll need is a way to cut the leather. And since you're just starting out, I'd recommend a regular old box cutter. It's simple, versatile, and effective. An advantage most folks don't realize about box cutters is that you can even strop the blades and significantly extend their life. And don't worry, I'll leave links for everything down below. Next up, a ruler. Nothing special here, just as long as it's straight and made of some type of metal. You can get by with a 12-inch ruler, but I'd suggest a 2-foot one. I know this is only 12 inches, but I tend to use a framing square or a T-square. For the sake of this list, however, 12 inches or 24 is fine. And I prefer metal myself because you'll be using it with a box cutter, and metal lasts much longer. I'm not going to delve too deep into this next item. Thread. Because it really deserves its own video. Let me just suggest that you go with an artificial sinew or like this wax canvas. Avoid Walmart or Joann Fabrics sewing machine thread. It just won't work. This brings us to another topic that could go on all afternoon. Stitching needles. There are so many to choose from and each one specific to a need. But for an all-around general purpose needle, you can't go wrong with the John James Saddler's harness needle. I think you can get like 25 for $7. And while we're here, let me give you a quick demonstration of how to thread a needle. Now, it's not like threading a needle for, say, hand sewing or something like that. This is a bit of a different process. Saddle stitching requires that, which is the most of the stitching you're going to end up doing, is going to require a needle on both ends, simply because of the process. When you're doing saddle stitching, you're just doing crisscrossing, almost like tying your shoes, so to speak. But when stitching a needle like this, you'll go in, find your hole, feed the needle through like this, give yourself plenty of slack here. You're going to turn around. You're going to take the point of the needle, and I usually go about an inch or two up. Lay the thread flat. Find a nice spot. Can be a little bit tricky. I'm trying to do this under the camera. Van Helsing it. You're going to go right through the center just like that. You'll pull it through over top of everything. Start taking up the slack on the other side. Take the slack up here. Make sure everything's nice and pretty. And when you get to the end, you pull it tight, but it doesn't have to be crazy. You're not towing a car with it. There you go. You've got a needle on either end of your thread. And when you're ready to start saddle stitching, I'll show you real quick how it works. You'll go in one hole here. I'm just showing you the basics here. This is not a stitching lesson. If you guys want to see an in-depth video on saddle stitching, I can absolutely do that. But you go across here, and the way it works, you'll go through this hole, the marrying hole on the other side, if I can find it. Rinse and repeat. If you want a detailed video on how to saddle stitch, please let me know in the comments below, and I will definitely work one up for you guys. Now, if you plan on stitching straight, you're going to need one of these. A stitching groover. Arguably, one might say this isn't essential, but for $10, it'll save you a ton of headaches, and you'll be able to get the results that you'll feel proud of. Spend the money, you won't regret it. Next up, we have the edge beveler. Again, this is one of those maybe I'll wait till later tools, but it does take a bit of practice to use, and it can really provide a very clean finish to your job. Let me show you here. Here's a bit of scrap leather here. Take a look at the edge right here. See how it looks? The edge beveler. Steady, even pressure. Gets it nice and clean on both sides. Still a little rough, but we're going to fix that again. The dog agrees. Next, I'd recommend a stitching chisel. This allows you to get the right spacing for your stitches, and the holes are necessary if you have any plans on getting the needle to penetrate this thick leather. A scratch awl will help keep those holes open while you're stitching, so you'll want one of these. There are a lot of models. I made this particular one, but you'll need to find one that's comfortable for your hand. I'm linking a decent all-around one below. Yeah, there are cheaper ones, but believe me, you will get what you pay for here. Next up, we've got contact cement. You'll want to hit up Walmart or Michael's to pick this stuff up. It's relatively cheap. There's no need to get the really expensive stuff, big gallons, $40 and $50, not if you're just getting started. This will accommodate you just fine. Last up, in my opinion, is probably the most expendable item on my list. The Burnisher. It's a stick. That's all it is. I've used this one. I've used power versions, dowel rods, even this antler will work. While you can use pretty much anything, I figure I'd add this as a kind of a wild card. The Burnisher does a great job at flattening the edges and polishing the edges of your project. It just gives it a little bit more of a finished look. Let me show you what I mean here. I'm not doing a lot of pressure, just a little bit. Definitely pushing down, but not too crazy. I'm not cramming it. I'm just kind of making sure I got a good downward pressure. And just with a few seconds, you can see right here how it kind of really cleans that edge up. This is untreated. This is beveled with a little bit of burnishing, and I just spent a couple of minutes doing it. And then this is the beveled without the burnishing. So hopefully you can tell the difference there. So what do you folks think of the video so far? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. Okay, as I promised, let's clean up a little bit here. Okay. Okay, so I promised a project. Well, here it is. Once you've sourced out some leather to start working on, don't worry, I've sourced that too in the link below. You want to grab some wood. Right now, I just got some hobby wood out of Home Depot or one of the big box stores. Paint stick will work just fine. And no, size does not matter here. You can do whatever size you want. Once you've got the wood, figure out how much of it you want to use. I'm going to go with a pretty decent size here. And I'm going to mark out the leather a little bit bigger than what it needs to be. Then I'm going to come through with my knife. Get rid of the extra. And now you have a decision to make. You can do this one of two ways. You can put it flat side here like this, or you can put it like this. I've already got one like this, and I want this side to be on top of this for this particular project. So let's go ahead, line ourselves up here. We know we're going to go to right about here. Again, this is not perfect. Doesn't have to be, not supposed to be. I need to use this stuff up. You can tell it's starting to get a little bit too thick. I got sick of messing with that old stuff, so I just got my new container out. You can see it's a lot runnier here, and that's good. That this is what we want. So after you put this on, you're going to let it dry for a few minutes. You're going to want it to get tacky. It doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is not that kind of a project. After applying it together, all right, so we're going to take our razor blade. Oh, at some point, you're going to want a cutting mat. Now, this is a completely unnecessary step, but hey, we're practicing, right? We're new. We can get our edge beveler. Again, for this project, completely unnecessary. When you do an edge beveler, you're holding it at an angle, not too sharp, not too straight up. Might be maybe 45 degrees, a little bit more. When you want to go, you start pushing, and you want to do even pressure. You're not jamming it. You're just doing even, steady pressure. That's it. Nothing crazy. Even, steady pressure. Congratulations. You, my friend, have just made a strop. You can use this as it is, but it works much better with a little bit of stropping compound or jeweler's compound. It's cheap enough, and yeah, I'm going to give you a link. I think this is like less than $8, something around there. Now, this is perfect for extending the life of all of your implements, all of your blades, all of your sharp stuff. Now, you can take some time and put the stuff on here. Get it nice and loaded down. That's it for starting out with. The more you use it, the more you load it down, the more it's going to load, the more it'll fill up there. Now, you can take this. You obviously don't have to make it this big. I just did it for ease of purposes. I used what leather I had. I used what wood I had. I didn't want to cut anything. I want to make this as simple as possible. So the way you use a strop is like this. I'm not going crazy. Not doing a lot of pressure. Hold it at a nice sharp angle. Basically what a strop does is hones the blade. It doesn't sharpen the blade. It doesn't really move material in the same way that sharpening does. I'm not using a whole lot of pressure. And when you sharpen a blade, you're using a stone, and that stone is extremely aggressive regardless of the grit in comparison to stropping. You know, if you actually have to sharpen your stone, you would start at a rough grit or, and move forward all the way up, and then you'd finish up with stropping. Not really necessary here, but I mean, you could even see the shine on the blade. I've been using this blade so long, there's actually some rust on it here, but look at that. Like I said, this is an old blade. This thing is perfect for extending the life of your blades. It makes each project that much easier. Well, this video has gone on long enough. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you decided to subscribe if you weren't already. You all have a great day, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.